Well, hi, and thank you for joining us today. I am Whitney Wiley. I am the owner and coach consultant of Shifting into Action and the co host of the podcast Life Lemons and Lemon Drops. And today I am going to be doing a series of interviews with the authors of the new book. She is an overcomer. And if you've been paying any attention to the podcast, if you watch my content at all, you know I'm all about overcoming the lessons that we learn when we encounter challenges and obstacles in life. And overcoming is an important part of that resilience. And so I'm going to be talking with the authors today, a few of the authors of the book. She is an overcomer, and learning a little bit about them and their stories. But we're going to start with Sally Green, and Sally is the one of the people behind Action
Takers Publishing.
I would keep wanting to put the other word in front of that. Action Takers Publishing. And so, Sally, welcome. How are you today?
I am fabulous. It has been a crazy day.
I'm sure it has been. Launch days are always crazy, right?
Yeah, you know it. It's I was up early and sending out emails and doing all my stuff behind the scenes, and but it's been a lot of fun. And it is an awesome group of women that we have as part of this book.
So tell us a bit about the concept of this book, and then we'll get to know your co-authors here.
Yeah, well, Dara Bose, who is the featured author, her and Linda came up with this idea, and the whole concept behind it was, women who have used their faith in order to overcome obstacles that they're dealing with. And so we started reaching out to women and saying, "Do you have a story to tell?" And these amazing 31 women stepped up and shared their stories. And it's been remarkable. Number one, as work as the publisher of this book, to get to know these women and to hear their stories, and oh my gosh, and then on a deeper level, being able to share our faith with each other has been a real blessing.
I can't believe I let this opportunity slide right by me. I don't even know how that's possible. I'm like on top of everything you and Linda are doing. Don't even know how that's possible that this got past me, but that's okay. It's okay that you guys do things without me. So
well, I know Dara's been saying, "Oh, we need to do a book too," because there have been a lot of people, just in today that have stepped forward and say, "I have a story I want to tell." So
no doubt
we may be doing a book too. So
no doubt, right? It's sort of impossible to get through life without going through something. The important thing though is how you get up, right? And tapping into your faith, tapping into your trust of God in particular is very important. And so let's meet the other two authors here. And then I'd like to hear, I know, Sally, you've got a short time with us. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your chapter in particular, and then we'll hear from Bridget and Mary Beth a little bit more about their chapters. But Bridget, share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for having us. So I'm Bridget Gildemaster. I'm a single mom of 4. So I was approached by Dara to write a chapter in the book because my story consists of very rapidly leaving my ex-husband, who had admitted to being a pedophile. And so I packed up my kids and left within a week of that. And I was 4 months pregnant. My other 2 were only 2.5 and under. So it was kind of a wild wild moment, and it's still going. So, but through my chapter, I talk about how just God has used it to bring me closer to Him and closer to other people. And the relationship that I've learned and grown with Him has just been phenomenal. It's through His grace and, overcoming shame and judgment from other people because of, there's no excuse for divorce, in our society. And so overcoming all of that and seeing biblical reasons for divorce and stuff like that. So that's a little bit of my story.
Well, thank you for sharing. I know this is difficult, right? Telling our stories a lot of times is we're thinking that we're the only ones or what other people are going to think, the judgment that they're going to have. But the other side of the things that we go through that you mentioned, Bridget, is how we grow, right? And how we become better through the process. And not that we would have asked for our circumstances, but we get to grow through it and we get to grow closer to God as a result. Mary Beth, like to hear just a little bit about who you are and if you want to share a little bit about what you do.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. I am a holistic practitioner. I mostly do life and health coaching. I'm also an entrepreneur, own, I'm going to say 3 businesses with my husband. So don't have anything to do, but my passion is holistic living, and even in business to create a model where we're harmonizing body, mind, and spirit on the individual level and even in a business level. I think that that's where people thrive. I think that's how we come into alignment. I think that's how our body heals. I think that's how we move forward in life. I think that's how our relationships thrive and heal. I believe that's how we heal from trauma. And that's a lot of my story. The story I shared in She is an Overcomer is primarily about a health journey of mine and how, you shifting mindsets and meditating rather than, the trauma that I had been through my past, which haven't talked about this a lot, and I will more, but I grew up in a religious cult. And due to growing up in an environment that was oppressive and terrifying, even when you get out of that environment, the things inside your head, the programs that are created are kind of basically you're terrified all the time of life, of everything. And so I kind of didn't know any different because that's what I grew up in. But my mind all the time was, what's the worst thing that could happen? Yeah. All the time, no matter where I went. I'd leave my house in the car and think about the worst things that could happen just every day, like every single day. And I was very, very, had a lot of health issues that actually started when I was a teenager. I had multiple immune disorders and autoimmune diseases and was very, very sick. And learning how to switch the narrative in my mind from, oh my God, everything is terrible, and kind of anticipating it to just get worse, to start anticipating that it could get better. And that was a huge shift for me. So that's part of my story.
I love that. And one of the things you said, question that you asked, what's the worst that can happen? I remember having a period in my time and I kept asking that question. And then I flipped that around, and so that it wouldn't be out of fear, but it would be, moving towards something. It's like now the question is, what's the best that can happen, right? And instead of getting stuck in that place, saying, well, what's the best that can happen if I take this action, if I start thinking differently, and it makes a difference in how you move forward. So thank you for that.
It makes a difference in how the cells in your body behave.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes it, there's tons of science behind it. And I mean, I do this all the time with people every day. That's what I do as a life and health coach with their physical health and with their life and where they're going with their life, to introduce the idea of anything is possible.
Yes.
Anything. And if anything is possible, maybe we could just choose to think about just to think about, because our body is listening
Yes,
to our mind. Choose to think about the possibilities that we would like to happen. Let's
absolutely.
entertain some good possibilities. So
Absolutely.
that's me. That's what I do.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sally, um, your chapter is titled Pigeons Don't Have Mirrors.
Yeah, well, I
Help
talk
me with
about,
that one.
yeah, I got to make it cryptic. Yeah, I talk about a time when I turned 30 and we had just suffered a huge financial blow. We had lost a ton of money in a deal with our house, and I always wanted children, and part of the house thing was going to be putting an addition on, and I was just in such a state of depression. And how when I was driving to church one morning, I saw a flock of pigeons, and there was one white one. And when I got to church that day, the sermon was about Jesus coming over as a dove, and the white bird, and I knew that everything was going to be okay. And so it's tapping into that faith, seeing those God winks and
Yes.
in your life, those things like, what are the chances of this happening, and noticing those, and believing that you're going to get through whatever it is that you're going through. And so, I mean, we all have struggles through different times, but it's that faith and that believing in yourself and in a higher power to help pull you out of it.
Absolutely. And I love that what you said, right? There is this moment where, regardless of what's going on, and even if it doesn't change in that moment, that there is a moment for you in your spirit, right? In your soul, where you can say, I know everything's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I don't know how, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know when, but I know everything is going to be okay. Bridget, do you remember that moment for you? Or
Yes.
has it not come yet and you're still living in hope?
I mean, always, of course, like even though I'm not in the midst of a drastic fight or flight right now, like there's always life circumstances, but definitely like learning to look for those moments instead of, like recognizing that they are out there, and like, okay, God has taken care of us this far. He got us through that. He saved my daughters from their horrible, what could have been future, and so like always looking for that and seeing his promises in the everyday life for sure.
And that's key, right? There is, when those moments come to you, but being proactive and looking for that as well, looking for the signs, looking for the realization of the promises made, right? Based on the promises kept, and just using that continuously to just remind ourselves he's been faithful in the past, he'll be faithful in the future. And again, I don't know the timing, but I know it's coming. What about for you, Mary Beth? Do you recall, if you had a moment where you were like, everything's going to be okay? Or are you still are you looking, constantly seeing those moments?
Um, I feel like right now, compared to even the story I tell in the book, I feel like I'm living the dream. I feel, I can't even believe I've gotten to where I am now. So that propels me forward. That keeps me going. So yes, I've had lots of those moments, because God is faithful, and he's been faithful to me. I mean, and I grew up in a religious cult, so I don't know if you guys can even really understand what a person has to go through to deprogram even in their faith. Because I basically had to lose almost everything that I thought that I knew about God, because it was not good. It was not good. But even then, even in the darkness of that space where God was a judge and abusive and cruel, he still planted something inside of my heart that knew he had to be better than this. I felt like if he was God, if he was really all powerful, if he deserved to be all powerful, then he had to be better. He had to be better than people can imagine. He had to be better than the box that we put him in. He had to be way more loving than we can even comprehend. And that moment, I do remember that moment happening for me. I don't write about this in this book at all, but that moment did happen for me. And it was when I was a teenager. And I just remember that little seed inside of me, like, if God is really God, he's got to be better than this. He just has to be. Otherwise, he wouldn't be God, right?
Right.
So that was probably the beginning of my heart knowing that there could be good, knowing that there could be good beyond, because it was very, kind of out in the woods somewhere kind of situation with no exposure to anything, didn't go to public school, didn't have any concept of that maybe what I was raised in or what I was being told that this is what God wants and we are the true followers of God here, that maybe that wasn't true,
Very powerful, very powerful. Bridget, in your chapter, you talk about being valuable, right?
Mhm.
And recognizing. Can you talk a little bit about that concept of being valuable, particularly in God, right? And not the sort of the value that we place on things in our humanness.
Yeah, so this has been a huge lesson for me, and especially this last year, because coming out of that, a lot of like what Mary Beth said about the Christian religion itself in all aspects can be kind of cultish. I've learned, you get shoved into these beliefs, and like I said earlier, there's no excuse for divorce, and I definitely was raised in that kind of mindset. Unless you're being brutally beaten or something, I literally had pastors telling me I had no excuse to leave. And I just knew that was not true. Like I knew he served a better God than that. Like there's nothing God glorifying about living in an abusive relationship. You can't live your life glorifying to him in that instance. And so that was a lot for me. I had to speak up against, people who I was raised to respect and listen to and say, no, I don't care what you do or say, I'm not staying. And, it put me in a position of feeling very shamed and outcast. I lost a lot of friends over it. People who I literally said, hey, I'm divorced. This is what happened. And I never heard from them again. Things like that. So I was put majorly in that box of like, I felt shamed and put in a place of maybe even, like as if I had gone out and kind of been the town whore and I didn't do anything wrong, I was just kind of protecting my own children. And so it set me on this journey. I walked away, not intentionally from the church, but just life circumstances happened. I quit going to church and quit, being as involved and kind of went on my own journey. And it brought me so much closer to God. Like Mary Beth said, just totally reset that whole mindset. And, I've had to learn phrases, and it's still hard for me to even say them because they sound foreign, but like, me leaving my husband was me standing up to glorify God, like valuing what he values instead of staying. Like that's not valuable, but God doesn't value his rules, quote unquote, more than he values us as his children. And so just learning we are that valuable to him. We are that precious that we need to treat ourselves the same way. For me, myself too, like I recognize that I have to do the work. I have to do the healing. I have to share these stories and talk about them and heal from them. And that alone is going to be more impactful on my children. But yet in that, my eyes are also open to help them through whatever is coming up for them, So yeah, it was a huge lesson for me. And being able to say I'm valuable was not something I was raised with at all.
You know, the thing that strikes me in hearing just the little bit of your stories that I've heard, going through my own journey, the observation of other people. I did not grow up in the church. My parents left us to sort of find our own path to God, to spirituality. And mine came pretty late in life. I feel like I've always believed, but didn't quite know what that was. But a couple of things you said, Bridget, was, you had to go on your own journey. And I think if we were left more for our own journey with maybe some guiding principles, some basic values, that we could embrace the path that you were on, rather than the one where people who are religious are telling us how we're wrong, what's wrong with us, right? And it is about doing the work. It is about getting to know God one-on-one in a relationship. And it's not about showing up at church every Sunday and then the other 6 days of the week, being hateful and, unloving and all the things that we can be as humans, rather than figuring out that it's about our relationship with him. And it's a loving relationship, going back to what Mary Beth was saying, right? That he has to be better than this and more than the box that we put him in. We are made in his image, not him in our image. And I think that's where we get it a little bit confused. We're not a little bit confused, a lot of bit confused, right? That we're trying to have God be in our image and then telling people what we think they should be doing based on what we think is the right way to go about it. So, Sally, as we get ready to wrap up this section, you wrote a poem as part of your chapter. Do you have it available? Would you mind reading a little bit from that? It's a beautiful poem, by the way.
I went on this journey back in, oh gosh, it was probably like 2010, 2012, where every day I would wake up and there would be a poem in my head. And I had to get it out. And so I have this collection of like 40 or 50 poems, and I had no idea what to do with them. So, when
Here
this
you go,
came along,
right?
I like, what, I'm just going to keep adding them to my books. So I am let me find my chapter here. So this is called The White Dove. When you wake up sad and lonely and you want to cocoon in a ball and scream, when there's no song in your heart anymore and you're falling apart at the seams, when butterflies glide through the air and when the white dove soars, I'll be there. When the stress of every day creeps up and you're just holding on by a thread, when every day seems like a chore and you're facing each day with dread, when butterflies glide through the air and when the white dove soars, I'll be there. When you wake up with joy in your heart, when the person you love holds your hand, when your child takes their first steps and everything is going as planned, when butterflies glide through the air and when the white dove soars, I'll be there.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So I want to thank you all for being here. I want to give you an opportunity, Sally, to mention the book again, show the cover. Here is the web address where you can get your copy. They're available now, right? Today is launch day. You can get it today, right now.
Yeah. So if you go to that link, you can purchase the book over on Amazon. There's a link to go to the Amazon link. And then, we'll, let me, so we'll do that. And then we'll be all set. So you go over there, you buy the book, and and you'll get over $3,000 worth of free gifts from the authors Each of the authors donated something, and when you purchase the book, you'll get that link.
Awesome. So get your copy of She Is an Overcomer. It is a collection of 31 stories of amazing women who are sharing their stories of how they have overcome different things. All of them have a different story. It's at actiontakerspublishing.com/overcomer. Get your copy today at Amazon. When you do that through this link, you get access to over $3,000 in gifts. So thank you, ladies, for joining me, and I wish you all the best of luck. Bridget, I know this is your first time as a published author. Mary Beth, is this your first time, or have you been published before? Well,
Yes.
Congratulations to you
Thank you.
both. Enjoy the ride. I have done this with Sally a number of times. It is a blast. You guys have fun and just enjoy.
Thank you, Whitney.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.